We're ready.
Take a lunch.
I don't think we're able to stay for lunch this time,
Oh, my
unfortunately. I know.
You get a rain check.
Yes.
Get a lunch check.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready to go. Good morning, friends. If you have been perusing the Wall Street Journal over the last 2 weeks, it has been a very intriguing kind of thing looking for articles on artificial intelligence. With the exception of 3 days over 2 weeks, there has been at least one article, and sometimes many more. So it's among us, around us, and today we're going to find all about it. I'm thrilled that we have two presenters from St. Andrews, and they will intrigue us. Remember the rule: if you have a question during the presentation, you ask it. We don't trust memory in this place. My friends, welcome.
I think I've got the lavalier. I think it's working, yeah. Eduardo was on a plane flying from El Salvador to New York. And you know how comfortable those are. The flight attendant was walking down the very small aisle, and his knee got struck. I mean, it got struck badly, and there was a serious injury. So, as you might expect, Eduardo went and sued the airline, and he hired Stephen to represent him. Now, Stephen's a good lawyer. He's always had a great record with the judges and everyone else. So, Stephen went about his normal process of filing briefs, etc. But then something odd happened. The opposing legal counsel was going through the briefs and the judge. And if you don't know what a brief is all about, I'm not a lawyer, but briefly, it's all about how you're justifying your case. And a lot of it relies on case law. So you end up citing case law in that brief quite a bit. And he did that. But what was interesting was that they did not exist. He referred to cases as if they actually exist and there was some precedent. They were completely made-up cases. He was challenged on that pretty much by everyone, including the judge, and he admitted using artificial intelligence, or AI, to help him with that brief. One caution with artificial intelligence is that AI hallucinates. And what I mean is, it will tell you something. These cases, for instance, it will sound exceedingly confident and be very, very specific. But if you catch it doing that, you can say, is that a real citation? It'll say, oh, no, that's just an example of the kind of thing you need to find. And more, this kind of thing is happening. And those are a lot of the things we actually see now in the Wall Street Journal and in all those articles. But we're going to focus on not only the threats of AI, but the benefits. Dr. Khampanya is going to talk about the benefits in just a second. And I'll come back and I'll talk about the threats with you. Generative AI, generative artificial intelligence. If on a scale of 1, let me back up, on a scale of 0 to 5, 5 being very, very knowledgeable and expert, and 0 meaning, what does AI stand for? Generative AI? I have no idea. All right? Let me see if we have any 5s in the room. Any 4s in the room? Any 3s? All right, Jim, I'm going to have you, no. Any 2s in the room? All right. 1s and 0s. All right. My hope is after this presentation, we can advance you a couple of decimal points. There's so much to know about AI. But before we do that, I wanted to sort of set a foundation for what generative AI even is. You work with AI daily as it is. You already have been doing it over the last decades. When you go to Netflix and Netflix is recommending a movie to you, that's AI in the background doing a lot of that, right? When you go online and it gives you recommendations for hotels over on the side of Google, there's AI at play. So whether you know it or not or called it that, AI is ever present in your lives. So what's the big deal recently? Well, recently, AI has gone from, I'm just going to call it the bare bones AI, where programmers program everything into the algorithm, and it will, based on those specific instructions, give you responses, right? Generative AI goes a step further. What it does is it doesn't rely on the code you give it to tell you what the answer is. It can actually think. It can actually analyze, right? You don't have to have a piece of code telling it exactly how to do everything, right? And you might ask, how does that happen? Well, there's two sources of information. They refer to training the AI. So the AI goes out, it's called scraping. I'm going to call it scouring. Goes out to the internet and all the billions upon billions of resources available, and it trains itself on that. And that's sort of an automatic process. It's constantly doing that. But it also needs to be trained by a human. And you might ask, why does a human have to train it? Because left unchecked, you can put in some very disturbing requests, and it would tell you, how do I make a bomb, for instance? It won't tell you that from the legitimate sources, right? Anything inappropriate, anything pornographic, the humans go in there and they actually make changes so that it's trained in such a way not to just give you any and everything. Does that mean everything it gives you right now is perfect, correct, and makes sense? Like I said, no. Okay? So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Khampanya, and I'll take it up after that.
All right, thank you. Oh, let me get me set up here. All right, so as Wayne talked about, I get the pleasure of focusing in on the gifts of AI or the benefits that might come along. But I do want to reiterate that there's, just as you are aware, lots of controversy about whether or not we should be proceeding at the rate that we're proceeding with AI. And the controversy is because there are enormous gifts and there are enormous threats. And so to get us started, I'm going to be talking about some of the more common ways that we are seeing AI used in our day-to-day lives. Most of you will be familiar with some of these. It's just whether or not that you associated them with AI or not. So one of the gifts of AI is the ease of living. So something that a lot of us have in our homes or in our families' homes are voice-activated assistants. And these use our natural voices. We just talk to it and it processes that information and it responds to us with its own voice commands. So for example, a lot of you may have heard of Amazon Alexa or Apple Siri, and we can use our voices to give commands or ask questions, and it can help us with various tasks. And so what's really interesting about this is that it becomes almost like a personal assistant to us. We can ask it to check the weather. We can ask it to order our groceries online or set an alarm every day at 10 a.m. to remind you to take your medication. My 2-year-old son is able to use it to play his favorite songs. And so anybody, regardless of their ability to, how mobile they are, or their ability to get up and do tasks, they can use their voice in a simple way to have an assistant to help them accomplish their tasks. And so again, for older adults, people with disabilities, young children, this is a helpful tool, but really I think most households are using this in some capacity on a daily basis. Another way that we're using AI is in our daily task management. And so, oops, I think that's a repetitive one. I need Wayne to manage my slides for me. All right, smart homes. So we have ecosystems. So we're moving beyond the individual device of Amazon Alexa or Apple Siri, and now we're talking about an ecosystem within our home. Smart lights, smart TV, smartphones, smart devices, and we're able to control our home anywhere we are, whether we're in the next room, the next county, the next state, or the next country. We still have control over what's going on in our homes, even as far as you want your oven preheated and you're 30 minutes away from home, you can schedule it to turn on in 15 minutes. So by the time you walk into your kitchen, your oven's ready to go. You can stick in that casserole, and you didn't have to wait those annoying 5 to 10 minutes for your oven to heat up. So really cool. Things are automated. Things are done automatically, and we're communicating across devices. And so you can have your lights set up to come on before you come home. It could be on a timer if you've got a routine. You can change the color of the lighting depending on what time of day it is. So if you like a certain light in the morning, but perhaps a more relaxing light in the evening, you've got all of those capabilities with either literally just your voice or a setting that you can put into a device. And so it's really amazing as far as what we're able to do to add comfort, ease, and convenience to our home, but it also adds a level of efficiency. And so we don't have things running when they don't need to be running. We can have our lights on, our electricity running only in the times that we designate. And so we know how everything is being used, when it's being used, and what it's being used for. So again, some of these benefits of the voice-activated assistance is going to come with that security piece, being able to have smart locks or smart thermometers, and making sure that your stove is turned off when you get to work. You're like, gosh, I hope I turned the stove off. That's something you can check on no matter where you are, and that adds a level of security. With the smart security systems, it can alert the police, it can alert you, it can do a variety of different things. You may even have a device that detects if you've fallen or if there's a fire, and depending on the situation, it sends the help that's needed. Now, moving into a new category is online customer service. And again, my focus is specifically on the gifts. And so I know that there's varied opinions on this. But when we talk about customer service in the past, we had certain hours of the day and certain phone numbers to call where we could seek customer service support from companies. And at times, this would be very helpful and useful. You could talk to somebody. Other times, it was they hired people from different countries. There may be accents, or they weren't able to help you within your hour that you needed it. So if it's 11 o'clock at night and you've got an issue with your product, sorry, you're going to have to wait till tomorrow before the first available person's going to be able to help you. And then even then, you might be on call waiting or on hold for who knows how long and get to listen to that wonderful elevator music while you're waiting. But with AI, they have something that they call chatbots or virtual assistants again. And with this, you have immediate access to customer service requests. And you can literally type in your problem, and it will walk you through step by step of how to solve that problem, depending on who it is. Or it can also act as a screener to get you connected to the right person, depending on what it is that you need. And so no longer do you have to wait for a person to pick up the line. Somebody, a chatbot, an AI somebody is available to you 24/7, and typically they can help us with a lot. Like, let's say I have a flat tire, and I am driving a 2011 Chevy Traverse. That's actually what I drive. That's not a random example. And I've never changed a tire, much less on a 2011 Chevy Traverse. So I can pull out my phone, and I can use a chatbot to either talk into my phone. I could just push a button and say, I am on 15501 driving a 2011 Chevy Traverse, and my tire just went flat, my back right tire. Give me the step-by-step directions for what I should do. And it will walk me through how to change my tire, who to contact for help, and also provide some additional tips for success, like, hey, it's a lot of physical work. Make sure that you take care, that you don't, that you get out of the way of traffic so that you're nice and safe. And it provides literally step-by-step process for whatever your needs are. So whether it be a product that you've purchased, whether it be you're out and about in the world and you need help, a chatbot, if not a real person, can be available to you at any time. And that's just a nice thing to use. And it's something that is becoming more prominent because businesses don't have to hire people to be working 24/7 and training them. The chatbot can think and help answer your questions or at least direct you to the appropriate person. So again, super cool. And then also they add in a layer of personalization so it can track your whole conversation. They can figure out how old you are, what you're looking at when you're shopping, and they can provide personalized assistance. Like it looks like you're interested in finding small. Actually, I see I've got a petite small sweater in the front row, so I think you inspired me there. All right. So now we're talking a little bit about, besides just having that assistance and the ease of use, there's also things that we wear. I know I'm wearing, it's what we would call personal safety devices, and it just adds some different features that we can use to take care of ourselves or to take care of our family. And so these tools not only track how many steps you take, but they can monitor your heart rate. They can also initiate an emergency response if it identifies that you have fallen or that your heart rate is at a too slow or too high. And so you can initiate alerts if you know you have a medical condition, and it can help track that for you and provide that immediate support. And so it's multifunctional. You get to tell the time, but it's also tracking a lot of your health functions as well, which can be really useful. Another thing that it does is it tracks your location. So for somebody like me, I am very geographically challenged. I can go out of my driveway and turn right and I'm lost. And so I like that I have this feature because in the past, you know, they made GPS systems for me because I never would have been able to leave my home without it. But now, even when I get lost with the GPS and it's recalculating, I have a geolocation connected onto my watch and my phone that it knows where I am, and if I need help, I can, with a click of a button, I can have help sent to me, or at least give me a phone call so that I can figure out how to get home. And then as I was preparing for this presentation, I wonder if I could use a chatbot to help me when I'm lost. And so I literally pushed a button and I said, I can't remember what road I was on at the time, maybe Highway 1. I'm on Highway 1, leaving Moore County and heading to Scotland County towards St. Andrews University, and I am lost. Can you please steer me in the right direction? And it asked for a landmark, and I gave it one. And it knew where I was, and it gave me step-by-step directions that I could either read or I could hit, and it would speak it to me and help me walk through how to get unlost. I wasn't thankfully lost at the time. I follow a very strict routine of how I get here, but I know that I've got that, and I could send it to my husband. Help, I'm lost, I need you to find me. And I could send him my exact location with longitude, latitude, as far as I need to go, and it will help find me. So that's super nice. All right, health monitoring systems. We kind of talked a little bit about this. This is an expanding operation. It's really being able to monitor a variety of different things: temperature, heart rate. I'm trying to think what else. How your breathing rate. I don't know what the right terminology for that would be, but it's constantly tracking you so that you don't necessarily have to be hooked up to monitors in a hospital to know exactly how you're doing at that moment, and if you need to take any sort of action or precautions. Or perhaps you are exercising and your heart rate's getting just up a little bit too much. You can set alerts, customize alerts to what your range is, and it will notify you. I mean, my watch even tells me if I'm in an environment that's too loud and it might damage my ears. And so a lot of times these are helpful notifications, but they're customizable. So if you're like, yeah, I got to blow dry my hair, I know it's loud, I'm going to turn off that notification, and you can just focus on what's important to you. But it has a lot of capability, which is really cool. So here are some of the examples. It can monitor your vital signs. It can predict, so it can keep track of how you're doing over time and provide some predictive analytics. So You can see how you've been progressing over time, and it can predict when you might be moving towards an issue, so you can stop it before it even happens. And then you can also make these connected to your healthcare providers to where they're also able to check in with your systems and keep a tab on how you're doing. And so again, less visits to the doctor, but more communication on your health status. All right, so this is where it gets really interesting when we talk about not just for our personal use, but also how the healthcare profession is using it for better diagnostics. So now they're able to use AI in imaging in the healthcare industry, and AI is able to greatly enhance X-rays, MRIs, CT scans to help doctors be able to diagnose things more accurately and more quickly. They get much sharper images much faster. They don't require the same level of trained eye to see things because it identifies it in addition to the doctor. So it's basically having an expert on hand constantly to help support the healthcare providers and provide identification for anything that's abnormal or that might indicate they're able to better identify cancer. There's a lot of articles out there right now about AI being used to spot cancer at a much earlier stage than they were able to previously before the use of AI within its imaging systems. A lot of the promise in the healthcare industry, they're looking at different types of cancer. Breast cancer is a main one, lung cancer, and any of the others where they're able to catch it at a much earlier stage and hopefully be able to address it earlier and have better outcomes. AI is also used to help personalize medicine, and so it can take a look at analyzing all of your data. So they can take in your genetic history, your lifestyle, your medical history, and it can help to tailor your treatment plans. So a lot of times we get into kind of a segmented healthcare system where we go to the foot doctor to check on our foot, and we go to the knee doctor to check on our knees, and we go to the back doctor to check on your back. Obviously, I'm not in the medical field. But what I've noticed is that a lot of times it can be a disjointed system, and what AI can do is it can take your whole profile and bring it together, and so it can analyze you personally and all of your different things that we're constantly trying to tell each doctor, but it puts it into an artificial intelligence system, and it can analyze it and provide a personalized protocol that the doctors can help use to guide your treatments and your medical care. And so again, it's a way to take a look at your whole self, your whole history, and also your goals, and be able to give you a more personalized approach to your plan. Additionally, to add on to that would be in medication. It could take all the different things and provide different pathways for how you could treat things with medication. So you could list 5 medications that you're taking and say, well, I don't like it because A, B, and C, and it might be able to regenerate your plan to come up with an alternative pathway with still medication, but maybe you don't have that one side effect anymore, but you had to take it before because it was needed to go with this one and it was a joint effort. Well, this can take the whole picture again and recalculate. So going back to my GPS joke, AI can recalculate instantly and it never gets annoyed or frustrated. It's got as much time as you need to analyze you and your goals personally. And so that's one of the really amazing things about it, is you can just keep going and going with it, and it will never grow tired of your questions or requests, and it will keep working to try to give you exactly what you're seeking to achieve. And I talk about that with personalized medicine, but really that's in any facet of its use. Whatever you're looking for it to help you with, you can literally just keep putting in the requests, and it never gets tired of you, it never gets annoyed, and never says, you know what, this is my lunch break, or I have too many patients today, I'm sorry you had to wait 2 hours, but I only have 5 minutes right now. It never does that. And so I think using this to supplement our busy healthcare system can really be useful and beneficial, and it can also help you to better understand your own health and your own plan for how you want to manage your health. And so if you don't understand why you're taking a medication, you can just ask it, well, why am I taking that medication? Or if you have an ache in your knee 2 days after you take this medication every time, you can ask it why, and it will give you all the different theories about why that might be happening. And then you've got the ability to go talk to your doctor and say, so this is what I'm understanding. I've been asking some questions with my chat bot, and I was wondering if you could help me make a change, because I've been noticing some things, and I'm starting to understand my condition and my goals, and also my prescriptions and how they're interacting with me. So it just gives you another place to really seek that understanding and to seek some ability to take some control or charge in being an active role in creating your own healthcare plan, in conjunction with your doctors who want to spend time talking to you, but we know how busy and overworked they are. This just gives you some language and some support that sometimes we find difficult, or we just don't want to spend every week in the doctor's office. Sometimes we want to be able to just manage a little bit when we can on our own. It could also, let's say you have, I'm getting on a tangent, I get excited. Let's say you've been given a diagnosis and you get it. You get the plan, you understand how this works, but you aren't sure how to support your family in sharing this information. You can ask it for help with that too. And the best way to broach the conversation and how you might be able to make it seem, less worrisome and provide the details that they need in order to understand. So even if you're a medical guru, your family may not have as much medical knowledge, like AKA me. And so having somebody who can explain that would be helpful. And so you can take the time to find the right words and the right language to also not just share with yourself and your doctors, but also with family and friends. Pretty much anything that you want to do, it can help guide you into making some choices. There's also robotic assistance. So let's say that somebody's had a surgical procedure or they've had some type of physical trauma. They have AI-generated robotic assistants that can actually, it's connected with the devices themselves, and so it helps them relearn how to walk or move or whatever their particular physical need is. And so this is an image of one example. You can see that this guy has lost part of his limb, and he is relearning how to walk with these robotic assisted tools. Similarly, they have robotic assistants in people's homes. So if somebody is immobile, then there can be a robot that literally rolls around and brings you a walker or a wheelchair, or helps to assist you get out of bed, or perhaps whatever else your needs might be. And so they do have these mobile assisted robots who come in and can help people with a variety of different things. So whether it be a device that you wear or whether it be a standalone actual robot, and I don't mean like the scary, it's probably where it's going, the scary, robots that look like people. I think they're coming, but a lot of times they're more like devices that roll around, and sometimes they have a screen so you can interact with the screen or communicate with other people through there. It's voice activated. You could say, please bring me my wheelchair, and it will go get it and bring it over to you. Or you could even say, you know what? Go bring me a snack and a glass of iced tea. I bet it would do it for you as well. So it can be really, really useful for really anybody at any stage of life, depending on what type of assistance they need. But this is a actively growing industry for this robotic assistance. I think some of you have probably heard of the Neuralink. I don't know if I'm saying that quite right, where they're even going as far as robotic assistance that's connected to your brain. And so there is a recent case, this is brand new, and so I'm not an expert on this by any means, but they are able to help somebody who has been paralyzed for years have some mobility because of the robotic device that is connected to their brain is now initiating movement that their brains weren't able to do because of, I imagine, some brain damage or something else. And so it's going very far, very fast. And so we already have a lot of these things in action, and every day they are advancing to new, exciting and slightly terrifying levels. But just to be aware of all the different types of AI robots that are part of our daily lives. So I call my Amazon Alexa a robot, and that's about as daring as I'm ready to be. But people have other actual robots already in their homes, much beyond those personal assistants. All right, so I've touched on just a few examples of some of the ways that society in general uses AI. I know that for me personally, I use AI in a new way on my computer, because again, not daring in the robot sector. But I find new ways to use AI on a daily basis. It has changed the way that I work and teach. So I am a teacher at St. Andrews, and I prepare teacher education students. And so part of what comes with that is being able to teach students how to develop lesson plans, how to develop rubrics, and how to create assessments. Well, I learned how to do that with pencil and paper, and so I have a vast understanding. But the reality of the world that I'm living in now as the professor who's trying to teach younger people in a world of AI is that AI can do that in a matter of seconds with a literal one-sentence request. So I can say, for example, I would like to teach a class of third grade students about fractions. Create a lesson plan that lasts 90 minutes, that moves from whole group to small group to independent work, provide the assignments, the worksheets, and a grading rubric. And it'll think about it for a second, and then within 10 seconds, I have my lesson plan, my assignments, and my rubric ready to go. So no longer do I need to spend time as a teacher building those materials. Now I have time to do something else. And so we are relearning how to use our time efficiently while using the tools that we have. So the risk that I see with that is that I know how to do those things without the use of AI. So I know what a quality rubric, a quality lesson plan looks like. But as Wayne mentioned, and one of my favorite terms related to AI is hallucinations. I love to teach my students about hallucinations because they actually happen when you least expect it, when something really, it shouldn't be wrong, but it just is. And so the younger generation has to learn how to use AI as a tool, but not as a crutch that works against them and being able to learn the content. And so that's really my experience is trying to learn every day new pieces of how AI can benefit my life, and then changing the way that I've done things so that I can be more efficient with the use of my time, because it frees up time by creating, as long as you've got the image for it. Does anybody in here? Yes.
I'll just ask a question. People want to.
Well, I was just going to say if anybody in here had any questions or wanted to share a personal experience where AI has positively impacted your life in some way.
Do you use Siri when you're traveling and Alexa around the house, or do you have any special personal AI apps on your phone?
On my phone, the app that I use most is ChatGPT, which is a chatbot that I can have it do anything I want. It can give me directions. It can answer my questions. It can create the lesson plans. It can, a lot of the images that I used in this or almost all of my images from this presentation were generated from an AI prompt that I provided. So I was telling it what I wanted to say, and I asked it to produce an image to go along with my presentation.
You download it, where do you get apps?
Yep, so you can just go to wherever you download apps for your phone. And again, there's more than one, but one of the most common ones is ChatGPT. And it is free. There's a paid for version, but there's a free version that will do everything you need it to do. And I use it every single day. If not on my computer, then definitely on my phone. And so when I was talking to you about being lost, I was using my ChatGPT app. And then also I used my phone app to create the images for this because I was doing that whilst my kids were eating dinner. And so I was multitasking, and I didn't have, when I bring out the big laptop, my 2-year-old son gets very excited. So I kept it to the cell phone.
Thank you.
Any other questions or ways that you have seen AI be used positively that you'd like to share? Yes.
Well, this is a tiny, superficial, but several years ago, our son had bought a new house at the beach, and we happened to be at the beach, and he happened to be in Germany or somewhere. And I texted and said we wanted to show our friends his house, and he said, well, just tell me when you get there, I'll open the garage.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool, but scary.
Yes. And then as a mom, I am constantly trying to come up with new recipe ideas that my toddlers will enjoy. And so I can say, I have chicken and broccoli and only 1 can of cream and mushroom soup. Help me out. Make me a recipe that my toddlers will enjoy. And it will give me a recipe that I'll be like, oh yeah, no, my kids won't eat onions. Take that out. And it'll modify the lesson plan, or I'll be like, actually, I changed my mind. Let's make it a crock pot recipe, and it will morph it into a whole new thing. And again, I could do that. I could ask it to change the recipe 100 times, and it would just do it with no complaints. Nobody gets frustrated. It's super patient, which is good. Any other questions or comments about the gifts? Yes.
Alexa, will you be able to replace my friend Jim Queen for a diagnosis?
I would say definitely not, because who knows what hallucinations you might get, and I would be very cautious with trusting AI as your sole provider. Yeah. So use it as a tool, not as the only method, for sure. Yes.
How widespread is it being used in the medical field right now, particularly in rural areas?
I don't have an exact answer for that. I think everywhere it's being used to a certain degree, and depending on what types of funding that the hospitals have for new technology. But honestly, it's in everybody's pocket, so nurses and doctors can use it just like you can. And so I'm not sure how advanced some of the bigger scanning technology, like how quickly that is out there, but in some capacity, it's everywhere. And continuously growing. Yes.
Doesn't AI sort of stop us from using our brain?
It certainly can.
I wouldn't think that's a very good idea.
Yes, and so that's where, when Wayne comes in, he's going to very much agree with you. And yes, that's something that I'm struggling with as an instructor of young students. I want to make sure that they are learning how to think and how to create on their own. However, the reality is it is an available tool, and so we have to learn how to merge those two things so that we can use the tool but not take away from that learning how to think and create. I think that is extremely important. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Several years ago, I went to the beach, and I have a younger sister who was very concerned about me being by myself, and she and her daughter got me one of these watches, and it's so sensitive that it told me 5 times that I had fallen when I had not. But I was beating sand off my shoe. It really knew there was something going on there. But I really appreciate it because it keeps me aware of how much activity I have and heart rate and all that.
Absolutely. And I think it, with the newer devices, like being in watch format, they're more preferable to wear as opposed to some of the older technology choices. And so we're seeing more people use them and therefore getting a faster response time when there is a need. Based on timeline, I could talk about the pros of AI all day long, but there are a lot of threats related to AI, and I want to make sure that we have some time to discuss those. So I'm going to turn it over to Wayne for the next section.
Okay, Where to start? She said so many things I want to add to, so let me do a few of those. And by the way, if we don't get, I don't want to rush things, so if we don't get to a point where we can get it all in, we'll just come back and pick up where we left off. I'd rather have that discussion and go at the pace we should go at, okay? I'm old enough to remember when there was no Facebook, and you are too. Yeah, you're saying, what do you mean there's never been a reality like that? Well, if you recall when Facebook came out and then all the other social media platforms came out, lots of things started changing. And I'm speaking to your question. You know, how is social media today impacting our kids? And research is being done. If you use it appropriately, you know, keeping up with family and things like that, great. But you can look at females looking at this idealized image of what a woman should look like. Think about the circumstances that might develop after that. If that's the expectation, but in reality, those great pictures on Facebook and on Instagram and everywhere else, they're only the positive side, right? You don't see as many, not near as many, people coming in and posting really more like reality, okay? To pick up on what Desirae said in terms of advantages for faculty members of AI, I use it daily as well. In fact, for Faculty Prep Week, she and I did a presentation before the beginning of the year for all faculty to say, okay, you hear about all these things where students are cheating and what's going to happen to the ability to write and things like that. But our presentation, we did it a little differently. We said, how can faculty productively and ethically use AI? And a lot of what she talked about is what we did. But I want to add one thing, because I just did this yesterday. In AI, now I use ChatGPT 4.0. I use the paid version, okay? I think it's like $15 or $18 a month. And it's from OpenAI. They're sort of the group that got this rolling. Or first out of the gate. A lot of people were sort of looking into it. So yesterday, I was in the process of grading the strategic seminar case studies. These are business students who are seniors and are graduating. And this is their biggest capstone course yet. And one of the deliverables in that course is a case analysis of a company. They were analyzing Ford Motor Company. Each one of those cases are about 50 pages long. And it takes me a very long time. It takes me at least a couple of hours to get through just one. And when you have 20 people in the class, you know, they're wanting to know before the second case is due, give us some feedback so we'll know what were right, what was good, and what was not so good, right? So I had read an article recently that said 5 years ago, 7% of faculty were using AI to assist in grading. Now, 5 years later, it's in the low 20s. I think it was around 21, 22%. And it said faculty were starting to use AI to assist in grading. So I said to myself, I wonder. Now, with my enhanced version of ChatGPT, I can actually attach documents. So I can attach that 50-page case, right? I can attach the 10 very specific pages of instructions and expectations of what that case should be. And I did that. And then it's all about what you put in the prompt, what you tell it to do. She gave some good examples of prompts. If you're not specific enough in writing that prompt, it's not going to give you good information. So I said, let me try this. I said, using the attached note, first of all, you're supposed to tell AI who they are. Me. You are a business professor teaching a capstone seminar for business majors, and they are required to do a case in accordance with the following instructions.
You just say it just like that.
Well, you can say I was typing, but yes, you can say it if you have that. Yeah, yeah. Oh, and Dr. McQueen, that reminds me. I added the rubrics. I just uploaded 3 documents. And I said, and fill out the rubrics for me, by the way. Just as for kicks, right? It did it. It came back with very few hallucinations, actually, because I thought I gave it, with all that detailed instruction, it came back with a narrative, and I had read the paper already, so I sort of knew where I was, but it identified things in the paper I didn't recognize or note. And it was a deeper explanation. You know, I usually say, here are my comments and give bullets. You know, it's a little truncated. But with that, it gave all kinds of things I hadn't thought of. But I did go through the paper. I looked at the rubric. I independently sort of graded it before myself with the rubric and saw where I was. And it was remarkable. The results were outstanding. Now, when it gave it to me, do I need to do anything with it? Absolutely. Because it could say something the case says and it just made it up. So I went through and verified every single thing in the case that ChatGPT was saying needed to be fixed, or what was good, what was in need of improvement, right? So that was interesting. Now you might say, yeah, go ahead.
I was reading an article in the Richmond Town Dispatch from Richmond, Virginia a couple of weeks ago, and they were saying something similar to what you're saying, that they were checking term papers. And they said the incidence of plagiarism had increased dramatically due to A1 being able to detect them.
Yeah, I mean, on the student side, I can't, just in this semester, I probably found 4 cases of AI use, and they're using it, okay? But there is no good detection system out there. I have a paid detection system. It's about the best you can get, but it can be wrong. And you don't want to make decisions about plagiarism based on faulty technology. It's too early to do that. So what I usually do is I talk to the student and ask them what was going on, and they usually can confess. But it's very real. But I spend time in class telling them how to use AI productively on a paper. I say, if you're thinking about talking about Ford Motor Company, go in and just go to ChatGPT and type in, you know, what are some of the strategic issues facing Ford Motor Company now? And it'll put up all kinds of wonderful looking things, remember? It's very confident. It can confidently wrong. And I said, okay, so you're going to get the idea from there. Don't you dare cut and paste from there to here, right? Don't do that. We're not going to do that. I can spot an AI written document because of the cadence and the way it rides. It's written in a certain way. And I said, don't do that. But you can get your idea there. But because ChatGPT hallucinates, you can go, what you have to do is go find a verifiable source, something on the approved source list I provide them, and find documentation that supports that, right? So for every ChatGPT citation, right beside it, it will have, you know, some kind of legitimate business source. Everything has to be verified. That's what I've been telling them. Is this the right way? I don't know, but it's a massive sort of instructional experiment.
Do you mind if I add just
Oh, sure.
just a little bit to that? So it's easy to detect AI use when students aren't savvy with it, but because it is so good at doing what you ask it to do, it can be very hard to prove AI use. So for example, if I ask it to write a 1,000-word essay on the American Revolution and tell it that I am a freshman college student who wants to earn a grade of a B, okay? It will write a B-level paper, and then I could go back and say, make this look more realistic by adding in a couple of grammatical errors. Okay, so if you're savvy with its use, detection is very, very difficult. And so that's why yes, there are all sorts of AI detection tools out there, but there's nothing that really can be used to pinpoint most of its use if people use it in a thoughtful way. Because I could say, write this paper like I'm a fourth grade student, and it will write it like a fourth grade student. Write this paper like a fourth grade student who averages at a grade of C, and it will change it. And so that's where it gets to be so tricky to identify. Sorry.
I went to church for many years with quite a few of you. I know how important lunch is.
Keep going. 10 more minutes.
Okay, so if you feel the need, which I probably would, to excuse yourself to go get lunch right at 12, please do so. I'm just going to chat just a little bit. I'm not going to get into the details of the threats, because if you would have me back, I wouldn't mind doing the threat side of this. It's just, a big discussion, and I don't want to rush it too much. But let me ask you all, when you hear of threats, I've heard students using it to write papers. What other kinds of threats have you heard that AI might result in? Yes?
I do a lot of volunteer activity, elections and voting. So where I hear it is this malinformation that is out there about the integrity of our elections.
Could you repeat the question?
I think I got it over the lawnmower or the weed eater. Yeah. Let me make sure. If I get this wrong, let me know, okay? During election seasons, I'm going to categorize it as misinformation being put out there.
Well, it's also disinformation.
What's that?
It's also disinformation and malinformation.
Oh, yes. In my slides, you'll see the next time I talk about fake news just to kick that discussion off. And here's an example. You could go in and see, I'm not getting into politics, you could either put Joe Biden or Trump at a podium giving a speech saying some really nasty things. And they're called deep fakes. You cannot tell the difference between a real video of Joe Biden doing that or a fake one. It looks like he did it. I mean, it is to the voice and everything. It's just like it. So that is obviously putting out some, they're misrepresenting a lot of things, right? Did you have a specific example?
Yeah, also the integrity of our elections. So there's a lot of bad information.
Okay, she's talking about the integrity of elections. This can have, again, go back to the social media example before Facebook. That social media approach has sort of impacted us socially, and we're still not sure what all the positives and negatives are. We've yet to see our children, grow up and really see the big impacts of what's going on. What's another threat you've heard of? Any other threats? Okay.
I have one that I'm interested to hear your thoughts on. Going off the deep fakes is where a lot of music and books are being produced through AI as opposed to real people, and they're being published, and somebody is making money off of these creations. And so I just wanted to throw that out there as a possible talking point because it's a very controversial and interesting issue as well.
In the field of education, I'm scared that long-term, short-term gains are going to be wish for instead of long-term gains. I mean, how do you instill in your students, we can't tell if you're cheating, but in the long run, you're cheating yourself because you're not getting that education. And then when you get out in the real world and you need that education, you don't have it. How do you get that message across?
Dr. McQueen, you say that time and time again. I mean, we tried, at least I do and others do, I know Desirae does, try to get people who are, 20 years old to take the long view. They're just worried about the paper Friday night. But we do put that message out time and time again to do that. But, I'm thinking of you as a physician, If you have something like AI helping you with the diagnostics, right? I mean, you're doing it as well. You're verifying everything. You're making sure that happens. Is that making you dumber?
It's just helping us learn. We used to have to go to the library and find an article and flip through it. You know?
That's right. So, you know, on the plus side, I teach my students to use it productively and ethically, because this is going to be a huge productivity tool. I mean, imagine, I'll give you this story of the calculator. When the calculator came out, right, everybody acted similarly to the calculator's introduction. The slide rule was the way to go, right? Yeah. So I'm not that old, but I remember when the calculators were this big. But this is just like that. This is an introduction of the new wave calculator, if you will. We're going to look at it and say, oh, well, nobody's going to learn how to do math anymore. We have a calculator. But how many of us rely on Excel and calculators on your phone, et cetera? We've turned that, which was a sort of life-changing thing in many ways, from, oh, I'm not going to learn math, to something productive and good. I haven't looked at exactly what the details of that are, but I just know Excel, calculators, allows me to do 10 times more in terms of productivity.
And I,
The calculator doesn't change reality.
Right.
And
Right.
You're talking to me about another reality.
yes, and I'd like to speak too a little bit to the question related to education. And so I think what we're seeing is we've already been experiencing a shift towards moving away from rote memorization and rote practice into more of experiential learning. And I think that this is accelerating that need to transition kind of what the school system looks like, and so that we are ensuring that our students aren't just using tools and not understanding their learning, but they're actually experiencing their learning in a more authentic way. So less worksheets where they could quickly search the answers on their phone, and more having to apply it to real-world settings. I think we're having to rethink a little bit what we think about homework, and how we test our students, and also how we expect them to generate products such as papers and do their research. So the standard methods in which we learned are no longer going to be the standard methods, and so we're having to readjust our instructional methods, but it doesn't mean that the same outcomes of learning can't be there, as long as we learn to adjust with these new tools, just as we had to do with previous technological advancements. It's difficult in the time, but this will become kind of like a new norm that we, as a society, well, as far as adjusting our instructional practices, it will just become a new way of doing things. Or we'll end up with students who don't meet those same outcomes because they are not using their brains to think. So we have to make sure that we adjust our instructional practices to counter this new technology.
And one specific thing that we do is, or many of us do, is the present state of the AI technology, it can't have an opinion, right? So if in the instructions for an assignment, you start putting opinion questions from your experience, it can't do that. What it does say, though, is, I am an AI. I don't have an opinion. I'm not human. And students have printed it off and submitted it with that right in the middle of it.
But when they get savvy, they'll realize they could say,
Present state of AI today. That's
I am
right.
a 20-year-old with a liberal perspective on this issue. Provide me with a stance that I can argue. And so you can direct it enough to help you to have an opinion, even though it technically doesn't. You tell it what type of opinion you have, and it can do it. And so that's the challenge is thankfully, most of them are not savvy. We are still a little bit, at least Wade and I are a little bit ahead of the game as far as our students at St. Andrews, but it doesn't take very much to learn it. And you realize that the better you get with writing your prompts, the better your products are, and they can generate something very authentic looking. So it's a huge challenge, but it is also a very beneficial tool. It does help with efficiency and productivity, and it does open up time and space for to focus our time and energy on something a little bit different. And so, it's a pro and con situation in every facet that you look at it.
That concludes our official presentation, but we're going to stay around if anybody wants to ask additional questions. Those of you heading to lunch, Ms. Whitehead.
I just wanted to say, you'll have to come back and tell us the financial implications of this new.
Financial implications, yeah, I've got that. There are several things happening. Wages are going to decrease. People are going to lose jobs. Environmental concerns are out there. The economic divide between the rich and the poor is going to be greater, and we can talk about all that the next time we come in. I don't mind at all, if Bob will have me.
I think that luncheon conversation is going to be absolutely wonderful. I don't know whether I am thrilled or terrorized. Probably a combination of both. We're extremely grateful, Desirae, Wayne, extremely grateful for your time, and we will have you back.
Thank you.
Next month, we will have Ryan Anderson here from Pembroke, and Ryan Anderson will share his time through 3 personalities on the 30s and the 40s, a place that we tend to know fairly well. 3 personalities, a president, a writer, a social worker, to give us insights to the world that created us. My friends, go in peace.